One of the most powerful lessons you can learn when it comes to staying calm is incredibly simple but deeply transformative. Breathe before you react. It sounds obvious, but in the heat of the moment, how often do we actually forget this? Something unexpected happens, someone says something hurtful, plans fall apart, and before we even realize it, our emotions take over. We lash out, we shut down, we panic. And then later, when the moment has passed, we sit back and wonder why we let it get the best of us. But here's the truth. The space between stimulus and response is everything. That tiny pause, that small decision to stop and take a breath, can completely change the course of your actions, your relationships, and your peace of mind. Because when you breathe, you interrupt the automatic reaction. You give yourself a moment to reconnect with your mind, not just your emotions. You step back into control. Instead of saying something you'll regret, instead of making a decision out of fear or anger, you ground yourself in presence. And this isn't just about deep, dramatic breathing. It can be as simple as one conscious inhale and one slow, steady exhale. In that one breath, you give your brain the oxygen it needs to think clearly. You allow your heart rate to slow down. You shift out of the chaos and back into clarity. Think about how many situations could have been different if you had just given yourself that one breath, that one sacred pause before you reacted. When you make breathing before reacting a habit, you start to notice something else. You're not just reacting less, you're living more intentionally. You're speaking with more thought. You're choosing your energy wisely. You realize that not every comment needs a comeback. Not every situation needs your anger. Some things simply need your calm presence, your wisdom, your silence. Over time, breathing before reacting becomes second nature. And the more you practice it, the more powerful you become, not in a loud, forceful way, but in a grounded, steady way that nothing and no one can easily shake. Calmness stops being something you have to fight for. It becomes who you are. So the next time life tries to pull you into the storm, remember, you don't have to jump into the chaos. You can choose to breathe. You can choose your peace. You can choose yourself. One of the greatest lessons in keeping calm is learning to detach from things you can't control. It sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest things for many of us to practice. You see, so much of our stress, our anxiety, our sleepless nights come from trying to control the uncontrollable, other people's opinions, the outcomes of situations, the timing of life. We convince ourselves that if we just try harder, if we just worry enough, maybe we can force things to go our way. But the truth is, the tighter you try to hold on, the more peace slips through your fingers. Detachment isn't about giving up or not caring. It's about understanding where your responsibility ends and where the flow of life begins. It's about recognizing that while you can show up fully, you cannot control how others will respond. You can put in the effort, you can bring the best of yourself to the table, but you cannot force the timing, the outcomes, or the reactions. And when you finally accept that, a huge weight lifts off your shoulders. You realize you were never supposed to carry all of it in the first place. Imagine standing on the edge of a river, trying desperately to stop the water from flowing. It's exhausting. It's impossible. But if you step back and simply watch the river, trust its direction, you find peace. Life is the same way. Some things are meant to move without your permission. Some people are meant to leave. Some opportunities are meant to slip away. And that's not your failure, it's just life unfolding the way it needs to. The beautiful thing is, when you detach from what you can't control, you gain so much more power over what you can. You can control your attitude. You can control your effort. You can control your reactions. You can control how you show up in the world, regardless of what's happening around you. And that's where real calmness is born, not from everything going perfectly, but from trusting yourself enough to stay steady even when things don't. Detachment teaches you that your peace isn't tied to outcomes. It's tied to your inner world. It's a quiet strength that says, whatever happens, I'll be okay. I trust the bigger picture even if I can't see it yet. And when you live from that place, life feels lighter, simpler, and so much more beautiful. One of the most underrated tools for keeping calm in a chaotic world is learning to talk to yourself, not to the chaos around you. It's easy to get caught up in the noise. Someone says something that triggers you. Circumstances start spinning out of control. People bring their drama, their negativity, their pressure into your space. And if you're not careful, you get pulled into their storm. You start reacting to them, defending yourself, explaining yourself, trying to fix everything around you, and in the process, you lose your own center. But the real power comes when you stop looking outward and start looking inward. When you talk to yourself instead of getting pulled into the chaos. When you whisper to yourself in the middle of the storm, I'm okay, I'm safe, I don't have to engage, I know who I am. That quiet inner conversation becomes your anchor. It reminds you that no matter how loud the outside world gets, your peace is an inside job. Think about it, the chaos is always going to exist. People will misunderstand you. Things will not always go your way. Life will throw curveballs you didn't see coming. But when your self-talk is strong, when your mind is on your side, you can face anything without falling apart. You are not fighting the chaos, you are rising above it. Self-talk is like training your inner voice to be your best friend instead of your worst enemy. It's teaching yourself to speak hope when fear creeps in, to speak patience when frustration builds up, to speak strength when weakness tries to take over, and over time, your mind learns a new pattern. Instead of reacting automatically to the noise outside, you respond intentionally from the calm you've built inside. This doesn't mean you'll never feel anger, sadness, or stress. You will because you're human, but it means you don't have to be ruled by those emotions. You can feel them, acknowledge them, and still choose how you want to move forward. You give yourself permission to protect your energy, to stay grounded, and to stay true to yourself, even when everything around you feels unsteady. At the end of the day, the world doesn't get quieter, but your mind can. And that quietness inside you, that's your real power. Mastering the power of silence is one of the most profound lessons when it comes to keeping calm. We live in a world that constantly demands a reaction. Speak faster, defend yourself, explain yourself, prove your point. But what if you didn't? What if you realized that silence is not weakness, but a kind of strength that very few people have the discipline to wield? When something happens that upsets you, the natural instinct is to speak immediately, to argue, to correct, to retaliate. But silence gives you something far greater than the temporary satisfaction of winning a point. Silence gives you clarity. In that pause, you gather your thoughts. You separate the truth from the emotion. You realize that not every comment deserves your energy, not every insult deserves your attention, and not every challenge needs your immediate engagement. Silence protects your peace, because once you say something in anger, in fear, or in frustration, you can't take it back. Words have power, and misused words often create wounds that last much longer than the situation that caused them. But when you remain silent, you give yourself a chance to rise above the noise. You show that your inner world is not at the mercy of external chaos. There's also a hidden beauty in silence. It unsettles people who expect you to react. When you refuse to engage in drama, when you choose not to defend every little thing, you shift the dynamic completely. People realize they can't control you with their words, their attitudes, or their manipulations. Your silence becomes your shield, your statement, your strength. And it's important to remember that silence doesn't mean you are bottling things up. It means you are choosing your battles wisely. You are choosing when your words will have the most impact. You are choosing to protect your energy, your time, and your dignity. In a noisy world, being calm is a superpower, and silence is often the doorway to that power. The less you react, the more you observe. The less you speak out of impulse, the more you understand. And in that understanding, you find a deeper, stronger calmness that no outside storm can touch. Another essential lesson in keeping calm is understanding that not everything requires your reaction. Think about how often we drain our energy reacting to every little thing: a rude comment, a mistake at work, a disagreement with a friend, a small inconvenience in our daily life. Every reaction pulls a piece of our peace away, scattering it in different directions until we feel exhausted, frustrated, and powerless. But the truth is, you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to answer every provocation with a defense. You don't have to engage every time life doesn't go your way. Learning to pause before you react changes everything. It gives you the power to choose not just what you will say, but whether you will say anything at all. And often, the most powerful response you can give is no response at all. Because when you stay calm, you're not letting the outside world dictate your inner world. You're not giving away your emotional energy to situations or people who haven't earned it. When you realize that not everything deserves your attention, you become more selective about what you invest yourself in. You start to see that some battles are simply not worth fighting. Some comments are simply reflections of someone else's pain or insecurity, not a reflection of your worth. Some frustrations are fleeting moments that don't need to be turned into lasting problems. And some situations are better handled with silence and grace, rather than noise and anger. Choosing not to react also builds incredible self-respect. It says, I value my peace too much to waste it on this. It says, I trust myself enough to know when to step back. And that trust, that self-respect, only grows stronger the more you practice it. So, next time you feel triggered, next time someone tries to pull you into a drama, or life throws an unexpected obstacle your way, take a breath. Remind yourself, not everything needs my energy, not everything deserves my reaction. And in choosing peace over chaos, you're not losing, you're winning in the way that matters most. One of the most powerful lessons you can learn on the journey to staying calm is this: control what you can and release what you can't. So many of us carry unnecessary stress, anxiety, and frustration because we're trying to control things that were never meant to be in our hands in the first place. We try to control other people's opinions, their behavior, outcomes of situations, the timing of life, and in doing so, we exhaust ourselves mentally, emotionally, and even physically. But the truth is, no matter how hard you try, you cannot control everything. You can't force someone to understand you. You can't make things happen exactly on your timeline. You can't prevent every obstacle, every misunderstanding, every change of plan. Life is bigger and sometimes messier than our human desire for certainty. What you can control, however, is yourself, your attitude, your effort, your choices, your reactions. When you shift your focus from external control to internal control, you take your power back. You start living from a place of wisdom instead of fear. Instead of panicking about what might happen, you prepare yourself to handle whatever comes. Instead of trying to fix others, you strengthen your own character. Instead of wasting energy resisting change, you use that energy to adapt, to grow, to keep moving forward with grace. There is real freedom in letting go of what you cannot control. It's like dropping a heavy backpack you didn't even realize you were carrying. You breathe easier, you think clearer, you sleep better. And you begin to live with more trust, not blind trust that everything will always go perfectly, but deep trust that no matter what happens, you will be okay, you will handle it, you will adjust, you will find your way. This kind of inner calm doesn't come from having a perfect life. It comes from having a mature perspective. It's about understanding where your responsibility ends and where life simply needs to unfold. It's about showing up every day, doing your best, giving your heart, and then letting go of the need to control the rest. And when you live like this, when you choose calm over control, you don't just survive life's challenges, you thrive through them.